Hey, it's what you got for me.
Durag Diaries, yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Jords x Savva. Let's talk transfers. I say welcome back. It's the first one on my channel. We done it on Savva's last week. We're doing it over here this week. It's going to be a rotating show on either of our channels. Once on my channel 1 week, and then once on his channel another week. So get used to this. We're going to be doing it for the whole transfer window, and we'll probably carry on something into the season. But if you are just checking into the show, make sure you're smashing the like button. That's a standard by now. Stand dizzy. Like the thing on your way in. Yeah. Show some love. If you want to become an extra member, if you want to be like most of the people in the building right now, you know, Hyper, Ghosted, you can become a member. Go to the pinned comment. The link is over there. But we now have the main man with us right now, Savva. He's here to join us to talk transfers, fresh over from Football Heritage TV. Big up to everyone that's coming over from Savva's show. Big support. Make sure, if you haven't already, go to Savva's channel. Yeah, smash a like on the other stream, but make sure you're subscribed to him. But Savva, it's good to have you here, man. I know you've been talking everything transfers already, so you're a bit warmed up for the day.
Yeah, man, yeah, just the 3 hours so far today. So yeah, all good, man. All good. Then got a transfer show at 5, so sod it. I feel like Fabrizio Romano, but just without any inside information. So it's all good fun.
No, definitely. And I've been seeing, like, and the thing is, it's actually good now because it's 1st of July. Spurs' transfer window actually is open. So we're seeing things drop quite frequently. We're seeing little things just slowly drop. And that's how the day has started. We've been seeing last night and all these different things, all this different news dropping. But let me quickly go to the chat before we go into everything Kudus and Tottenham transfers. Big up to Hyper in the building. Smash the likes, people. As he says there, smash the like button. That should be a standard as soon as we walk in. Can we make sure the moderators are throwing Savva's channel into the chat just to make sure people are subbing up to Savva? As we see everyone coming over from the Savva raid, it's good to see people. It's good to see everyone over here. Big up to Drula, always a real one. Big up Jords and Savva and the DD chat. Smash the like button. Savva raid. Everyone's over from Savva's channel. That's perfect to see. We love to see that. But kicking it off, Savva, we did have, and I wouldn't even say it was a bomber, but a bit of breaking news today. A bit more of a, I suppose, a build-up on all this Kudus stuff, because I suppose in between our shows from last week, we didn't know anything about this Kudus stuff. Kudus was, Spurs had a slight interest, but the deal started to warm up over the last couple of days, and especially the last 2 days. There was something that came out from Fabrizio Romano. I don't know if this was a tweet or necessarily on his YouTube, because you know the way the aggregators put it, they don't necessarily clarify all the time. But talks between Mohammed Kudus and Tottenham on project and personal terms are underway. Positive approach. Kudus open to joining Spurs whilst talks continue with both player and West Ham sides. There are 2 more clubs still involved in the race. So I suppose, what do you take from that, Savva? What do we take from that news? Is it Spurs are moving ahead with this deal, or is it just normal? You know, Spurs are just talking to the player?
Well, I mean, he's tweeted this morning, hasn't he, saying that Spurs and West Ham are underway. Sorry, that Spurs are underway talking with him as a player, but are also underway talking to the club. And I think, like I always say this, people have got to differentiate the two. You can be talking to a player. It doesn't mean that you're in negotiations with the actual club. Yeah. But it looks like it's good news that we are negotiating with West Ham. There's always that caveat at the bottom of it, George. So like this morning, I think Romano said there are 2 more clubs still involved in the race. I think one of those is Chelsea. And this is that one bit that's stopping me from going, yeah, we're going to get it done. I'm like, oh, this Chelsea, man. So, but listen, I'm really up for this signing. This is what I like to see in a footballer. Pace, skill, technique, gets me off my seat. I'm really up for this. So I really, really hope that Spurs can be a bit decisive, move forward. And then without jumping the gun, you see this morning lots of talks that Arsenal are now talking to Madueke. And I'm just hoping that Arsenal don't buy Madueke and then allows Chelsea to get Kudus. But I'm excited, man. I'd love this as a signing. I'd love it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get onto. What do you see Kudus as being in our team? Because I think for me, I'm really excited. I'll start there. I know there's some Spurs fans, and Sean sort of touched on it yesterday when he come onto your show. There's a lot of Spurs fans that are spinning this to be Kudus isn't that good because he's had a bad season. We all know West Ham had a terrible season, but more than anything, they was under 2 terrible managers. I don't think Plettenberg got anything out of that attack. Because I don't know about you, Savva. When we remember doing streams in the summer last year, they were signing Somerville, Fulkrug, signing all these attacking players. It was like, West Ham's attack is so much better than Tottenham's. And all these things were going on, talking about how good they were going to be.
Yeah.
And all of the players fell short. So I don't think there's too much that you can take from Kudus' last season. But we know the season before that, he was phenomenal. So what do you think of him as a signing for Tottenham? And I suppose of what you've seen of him so far in the Premier League?
First of all, what he gives us is something completely different to any other profile that we've got. You've got Brennan Johnson, who's not really a right winger, but wants to ghost into the box and score goals. But let's be fair, doesn't do anything as an actual winger. Matisse Tell, could he come good in a few years? Sure. But at the moment, it is very raw. Solomon is not good enough. You've got Odegaard again. He's another one where it's a bit hit and miss. This guy for me is oven ready, Jords. This guy for me is quick, strong as well. He's a man, and he's like you've seen those combinations where he's brushing people off as he's driving the ball.
I mean, he had a punch up with a few of our players.
Yeah,
a few on the floor. So
yeah.
I love that. I love a bit. Like, I remember when Jose said it, like, it's part of my French, but we need a bit of confidence in us. Like, you need to have that side too. Like, you need to have that in your team. And Kudus has shown that. Richarlison, before he came to us, had the same little punch up with like Romero. You need those players in your team. You need those passion players that are really gonna like put their heart on their sleeve. And in the game, they might be a bit aggressive. They might get into a bit of a scrap. But far too often, Spurs have been the nice guys. And I've been tired and fed up of seeing the nice guys on the pitch, like Brennan Johnson on that right wing getting bullied. Like I said, trying to run past players, but just not showing that aggressiveness that you need sometimes. Jed Spencer's done it. Like whenever he's 1v1 with players, the one thing he does is make sure that he's close, he's tight, he's aggressive with them. And that's the one thing I think we're missing. Sorry, continue.
No, I agree. Listen, I just think he gives us something very, very different. He's the best dribbler in the Premier League. If you look at the data over the last 2 years, he's got the most take-ons in the Premier League the last 2 years. I want to see that. I want to see a wide man that when he gets one-on-one, I don't think, are you going to cut back and pass it 5 yards? I want to see him take men on. I want to be frustrated by him because he's trying skills and trying to beat a man. I've got no problem with that. When players give the ball away because they do the easy thing, it annoys me. I don't mind. If you're trying to take your man on and every now and then you can't get past him, I'm cool with that. But to your point, Jords, the key thing for me here is we live in a world where everything is right now. Oh, he's had a bad year. He's terrible. Listen, I watched this lad for Ajax. I watched this lad for Ghana. His first year at West Ham. This is a proper footballer.
Yeah.
Right? He's a proper footballer. This is a guy that's got that difference maker in him. Now, yeah, he's been at West Ham, who haven't had the greatest year, a bit like us. They haven't had the greatest year. If you go to his transfer market page and actually look at the number of games he's played in different positions this season, they've not settled him down with a position. I don't think that will be what Frank will do. Frank will get him a position, and I think Frank turns him into Mbuemo. I think he gets that output out of him. Maybe not year one, but I think he says to him, hey, you know how good you are at football. Technically and skillfully, you're one of the best in the league. How can we get you in more dangerous positions to get your goals up? And I think he'll work with him on that.
Do you know what? You were speaking my language, Sam, because I said the exact same thing. Literally, when I was looking at this signing, I said, this is the winger that he will make into Brian Mbeumo. Brian Mbeumo, what he done last season took many, many years of Thomas Frank to get him to that level, because he brought him, I think, 3 or 4 seasons ago, and he's been building his way up as a secondary player, then becoming the first option, and now for Tony left, finally, he's the go-to option in the attack. But with Kudus, I think at West Ham, he suffered a bit at times, because in his first season, he had to force himself to become that option above Bowen, be the go-to guy, getting the ball, being the creative outlet for them. But even again, like I said, he's not really picking up the ball in the dangerous areas. For West Ham, he's getting the ball from quite far back, usually in their half, and having to drive past 3 or 4 players down the wing or through the middle of the pitch to create. So in for Tottenham, for a team that's going to be a lot more set up, a bit more structured, getting that ball out to him, just like what you said there, picking up the ball in those half spaces. I think that's what Frank's going to do.
How much did we get the ball last season? George, how much last season did we get the ball to whoever was wide, whether it was Son, whether it was Johnson, Odegaard, Tell, whoever was out wide, they constantly had the football and constantly didn't beat men. Now, I know that Frank plays a different style of football, but look how quickly Frank got the ball to Sharda, Vissa, and Mbeumo. Look how quick he gets those danger men. You want the danger men with the ball in the final third. I don't want them picking it up in our half. Yeah, because now you're saying, right, you've got to beat 8 men in a mazy dribble, and that's fine. But I want them one-on-one, get them the ball, get them on a transition, and then I think you see the best of a player like Kudus. So for me, I'm all over this, Jords. I'm all over this like a rash. I would love this as our right-sided player cutting in on his left. Love it.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love it. And it's a deal that I'm getting really excited about. They've said that the deal could be done for around £60 million. And that looks like right now, I think that seems to be the sweet spot for Tottenham. A few years ago, it was 45 million pounds. We used to make a lot of signings in around that. It seems like 60 to 65 right now is Tottenham's sweet spot, where we're maximum, where we're looking to spend money on a big player, or I say a fairly big player, because obviously we have Richarlison and Solanke in the years prior. But those are the points where I think Spurs is starting to perk up. But like you mentioned there's not just us that are in for him. When we brought up the report, it did say other teams are in for him. And like you also mentioned, with that report coming out, Florian Plettenberg then doubled on top of that and said, as we can see here, Madueke is going to go. Well, Arsenal are in for Madueke. He's one of their top targets. We know Chelsea have just signed João Pedro, Bino Gittins, and they're looking to get rid of some right-hand-sided players so they could potentially feed into that Kudus still. Are you worried now? Because if this still does start to speed up and we don't make a move on Kudus, do you think Chelsea could come in and, I suppose, hijack?
Look, it's always my worry. Even if they don't sell him, this is always my worry, is that at any moment we hear, "God, this deal is just a few days away," and then Chelsea have come in overnight, offered him whatever he wants. They can pay the same fee. And I hate to say it, Chelsea are a bigger draw. They are a bigger draw. Now, you've got the argument of, can we turn around and say to him, well, you're our main man if you come to Tottenham. At Chelsea, you might not be the main man. You might rotate. But we know that's not how all footballers work. We know that they're going to look and go, well, hang on, who else is Chelsea buying? And they're buying and they're buying and they're buying. Yeah. So, yeah, of course it worries me. We saw this with Pedro Neto last year, didn't we? We've seen this with multiple people. They did it to us with Willian. We've had it with Spurs with Luis Diaz, sorry. Liverpool came in and took him. So, of course, I always worry the bigger clubs are going to come in. But I guess that goes down to, if we are in talks, if this is the guy we want and a deal can be done, I guess that's where the club have to move quick. The club have to move quick, right? And go, hey, you're our main guy. What do you want, West Ham? What do you want? Let's pay it and let's get it done. But yeah,
that's exactly it there, man. That's where the problem I think lies for us is, are Spurs going to speed up this deal, knowing that there's other clubs involved, knowing that there's movements going on in the window that could impact this deal? So, because if we start to slow down the talks with West Ham, because I'm sure with Kudus, it's quite simple. He will accept Tottenham, he will accept Chelsea. But it's only going to be whether he will come on top to Tottenham over Chelsea if we agree the deal with West Ham way before Chelsea do. we need to, in my eyes, we need to get this deal wrapped up within the next week because we know how Chelsea move in the window. They could probably accept a bid for Madueke, know that that's probably going to be pushed through, and then start to make a move on this Kudus deal. And like Mr. Udang said in there earlier, we are far too familiar with this case. We already know what happened before with Willian.
This is why I don't allow myself to say, this is why, you know what, like last night, I already saw, Jords, I kid you not, man. I always flick through YouTube at last thing at night just to, just to see who's live and say hello and whatever. And I saw, welcome to Tottenham, Mohammed Kudus. And it was someone who put a video together of all his skill. And I'm like, hang on, can we learn? Can we learn? Because otherwise what will happen is we'll all big this up. And then unfortunately what will happen is everyone will then just go, oh, Levy, you're a prick. You didn't get it done. And look, let's see. Chelsea in these circumstances, the difference between us and Chelsea. When Chelsea were talking to João Pedro, it went like that, right? Yeah. Chelsea were talking to Palmer, it went like that. That's what these clubs do. Tottenham now, what I don't want to be seeing is we get to the 15th, 16th of July, and it's, well, Tottenham are thinking about making a bit. Let's move quickly. Let's get the player we want. And I think it could settle down a lot of the fan base, Jords. It would be nice to get that first team signing in. Not kids, not subs, but yes, we now know that as part of our new look front three next year, Kudus is in. I'm happy.
That first big marquee signing, I feel like those ones should always happen within the first few weeks of July, just to give your team that boost, give the fans the boost, and just ease us a little bit to let us know, all right, we might be moving in the right direction. We've got our first big signing, probably the biggest signing we may make of the window, because we know Spurs are probably not going to make two £70 million signings. But hey, things are changing. Apparently, Daniel Levy does have new ambitions. So I'm not going to speak too much and try to wish down bad on that side of things. But no, what you have said there is totally correct, Savva. I think for me, it's just like, go on.
By the way, George, there's people in the chat saying, oh, we're allowed to get excited with that. I'm not saying don't get excited. I'm excited. What I'm saying is I don't allow myself to get to the position where I go, he's coming to Spurs, because we just don't operate like that. Yeah? If Daniel Levy goes out, gets this deal done at 60, 65, whatever he has to pay for it, credit where credit. I've not jinxed anything. That was my point. I'm not jinxing anything.
That's exactly what he's saying. He's basically telling you guys, stop putting the videos like welcome to Tottenham Kudus, because you're going to jinx it, basically. So you guys, some people need to slow down. I get the excitement. I do get the excitement, though. It's one of those ones we probably haven't been linked to a player of his type in a while. A lot of our last transfer windows, we're just linked to the same players, and none of them have really got that X factor. But like someone put in the chat, I think it was Jay Spurs, he says Kudus has that match-winning trait in him. It's just not a type of player that we have right now. Someone who's just able to win a match all by themselves. I've said for so many years,
get me off my seat.
Yes, like a player that's going to get you off your seat, run past a few players, and then hit it from 10 to 15, 20 to 30 yards. That's just what we need. And Kudus brings that to Tottenham. But on Madueke, because that is an interesting one for Arsenal anyway. I know we're not, this isn't just a Tottenham show. We talk transfers in general. What do you think about that potential deal to Arsenal? Because I don't know, I looked at it and I was like, they're really taking a step back. Like, how generous of Arsenal to throw more money at Chelsea. Like, well, I don't know what's going on over there, but it's a bit strange.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Listen, I like it because we're Spurs, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it for them if they want to be title challengers. They confuse me. For me, I look at it and I say to myself, right, if you're buying him as a backup to Saka, well, you've got Waneri. Like, you've got Waneri there that surely you want to develop and that to be your guy. And I think he'll be better than Madueke. On the left-hand side, what they've got Martinelli, and they're trying to get the likes of Eze or Rodrigo. Cool. Where does this fit in with what they need? I feel like this is I feel like a lot of clubs now are lazy. I feel like they're making lazy signings to suit their fans. I think this is the problem. We all go, I want 6 signings, 7 signings, 8 signings. And the clubs are going, but we're just, I don't get it, Jords. I don't mind Madueke. I don't mind him. I think he's a good player, but good, not not great. I don't think he's shit. I think in the right setup with the right coach, I think he could get better. But how good? I'm not sure. There's a lot of better wingers
Champions
out
League
there.
level player, isn't it? That's what I look at him and I'm like, if you're talking about for Brighton, Fulham, a team that's challenging again at the Conference League level or just below, I think he'd be a great signing for them because he could probably be a first option on the wing. He's going to get at his man. He's probably going to get more space in behind. So I think he'd create more and probably score more goals at a team at that level. For Arsenal, he's not the player they need. He's not a needle mover. He's not a player that comes in. He was a backup for Chelsea and was an option on their right-hand side. Goes over to them, he's got the same role because he's not overtaking Saka. And I can't see him overtaking Martinelli on the left-hand side because he's very much just on that right-hand side. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't understand what Arsenal see in this deal. As a backup for Saka, cool, he's probably better than what you currently have, but I feel like for me, Waneri was doing a very good job already. Like you didn't really need someone to come and fill in on that side. Should have focused on that left-hand side. But hey, like you said there, I'm not mad at it. Like Arsenal not improvement, that's fine by me. I don't mind. But
if I take my Spurs hat off though, I don't get it. Like,
yeah, it's really strange.
First of all, like you said, what they're doing is they're giving Chelsea money, right? And I understand it. If Arsenal were buying one of Chelsea's best players, you don't mind giving anyone money because what you're getting, my fault, right. You don't mind it if you're giving a club money for a player, but you're getting a really top player in return. But it just feels like they'd be buying a squad player to fund Chelsea spending more on their squad. It just all feels a bit weird. I wonder whether or not Madueke would exchange being a rotation player for being a rotation player. I don't know if he will.
I feel like this is definitely one of the deals where you need Sean to go break down some finances. Maybe see if there's something going on in the background. Maybe there's some funds being moved. Chelsea and Arsenal covering up something because he's going to cost about 40 million. It's not like he's a cheap deal. It's going to be 30 to 40 million pounds. And I can't understand why Arsenal would invest that into a player like Madueke when, like I said, there's so many other players and other options that are similar to him and probably give you a very similar level performance. But Drula, big up to you for the super sticker. I can see it's just a smiley face. So big up to Drula every single time, people. Make sure you're smashing the like button on the video. We've got 67 likes right now, 156 people in the building. Let's see if we can get that up to 100 before the video ends. I don't think that will be too hard. And again, make sure you're subscribing to Football Heritage TV to see more of Savva. Even though I know plenty of you guys are probably already, but for those who aren't, please make sure you show your support, show your love to Football Heritage TV and Savva's channel. We do this show every Monday, 1 p.m. Be on Savva's channel one week, my channel another week. So just make sure you're keeping a lookout for that. But moving on from Madueke a little bit more, we did also see some news that dropped today to say, to be fair, I'm not really too sure because as we know, there's like a bit of a, I don't know, with the journalists, it's a little bit of like everyone's trying to get a jump on each other. So we saw Fabrizio come out earlier and talk about Arsenal's move for Eze, how they were gaining a bit more interest, but Tottenham remain keen on Eze. But then also I saw news from David Ornstein to contradict that completely and say Tottenham will not move and there's no more interest on Eze at this moment in time. What do you feel about what's going on in the journalism world right now? And who to believe? Who do we believe on that?
Look, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because my go-tos are normally Plettenberg, Romano, Ornstein, Sasha Tavolieri's good as well. Yeah. And you've got people like Ben Jacobs that seem to get quite a lot of Tottenham stuff as well. It's a difficult one, right? Because it's the wording used. So Spurs can still be interested in Eze whilst cooling their interest, right? Like, look, I've got no doubt Spurs are interested in Eze. I've got no doubt many football clubs are interested in Eze. It feels like a very lazy, it's a lazy link now to whenever anyone talks about Arsenal and Eze, Tottenham get mentioned as well because it gets clicks and likes and views. The way I would see it is this, is I would suggest that Tottenham probably realise that if a bigger club comes in for Eze, that they probably can't compete. And that's probably why no bid has gone in. At the moment, no bid has gone in from Arsenal, but they are talking to the player. For all we know, Spurs might have already talked to the player. The player could have said, no, I'm going to hire. loads of hypotheticals. He might have turned around and said, I want Spurs more than anything in the world. He might have turned around and said, I'll be honest, I'm interested in Spurs, but should Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, City come in for me, I'll be honest, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
We don't know, but the problem is everyone in our fan base, Jords, is literally like, we are so in love with Eze that now every other signing is being compared to Eze. So on my show just now, I got, I like Kudus, but he's not Eze. And I'm like, well, first and foremost, they don't play in the same position. So like, I don't know why, like, let's stop doing that. Second of all, what do you do? Like people going, oh, if you don't get Eze, Levy hasn't backed the manager. But one, you don't know whether or not he's Thomas Frank's first choice. Two, you don't know that Eze wants to come to Spurs. So I just feel like the Eze thing is just draining now.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's just way too much.
Yeah, I'm literally getting to the point, same as you, and I'm like, I don't really want Eze no more. It's been a deal that's been dragged out for so long, simply just because like Spurs have been interested in him for 2 years. God damn it! Like I've been hearing Tottenham are favourites for Eze since last season. Before last season, midway through last season, we was hearing this. Spurs were interested for Eze when Postecoglou first joined. Then he turned him down, and the interest cooled. And then all this season, since the back end, it's Eze, and I'm just At this point, it's like, hey, look, I think Eze would be a good signing for Tottenham, but seeing our interest cooled in him, it's just like, okay, that's fine by me. Like,
who next?
Spurs will move on to
who are
other
we
targets.
actually interested in?
We'll move on to other targets. Like, I don't look at Eze and think that he's one of a kind. He's not a type of player that you're not going to find in the market. There are other players like Eze in the market. So it's not a deal that you have to be too upset about when you're seeing the likes of Arsenal potentially move on him. But I suppose when you look at it, it does like it's hard to know what is actually going on. It seemed like at first he was one of our top targets, but then over the weeks he slowly worked his way down the pecking order. And whether that's to what you've said, he's favoured other teams. We do know he started off in Arsenal's academy, so maybe he favoured a move and made it very clear that he'd prefer Arsenal over Tottenham, which I think both of us would agree. Like we said, at this moment in time, we can't compete with Arsenal for signings. We're not in a very good position. If we're both in the top four, different conversation. We might have a bit more of a toss-up. But right now, I mean, although we won the Europa League, Arsenal are in a position where they're primed to compete. Tottenham don't even know what our goals are next season at this moment in time because we don't know what signings we got in. We don't know what to expect.
Agreed. Look, I think the football fans sometimes struggle with the difference between us being interested in a player and that meaning that the player wants to 100% come to us. And I keep seeing this, and we've got to get over that. Eze may have told us that we're an option, but not the option. We don't know. By the way, could you just Ben at 129? I feel like I haven't addressed any trolls today. I love this. Savva the trophy hater. Do you know what I'd love to know about Ben? Whoever this is, I'd love to know why you weren't cuddled enough as a child. Like, how has he got a platform? Well, Savva's got a platform because I've worked bloody hard at building my platform over a number of years. Thank you very much. Second of all, who hates trophies? Where has this come from that I hate trophies? Ben, you have a wonderful day, my man, and thank you for being here to pay Jords to watch his show and talk badly about me. Keep tuning in, keep typing messages, my man. Thank you. Look, I agree with you. I love Eze, right? I would love Spurs to sign Eze, but I'm not going to be like at the end of the window, oh, we didn't get Eze. Levy's horrible. Levy's terrible. For me, I'd love to see Kudus on the right, and I'd love the Georgian guy, I can never say his name, from Lyon on the left. Right?
The striker you're talking about.
Tuesday,
yeah. Georgian guy, yeah. I know.
For me, those two revolutionise how Tottenham attack. They revolutionise how we attack. So Simmons is another one I would take. Semenyo is another one I would take. I'd like Harvey Elliott to be one of the players in our squad. Like there's so many good footballers that we don't need to just look at Eberechi Eze and then lose our minds if we don't get him.
No, definitely there. And just quickly on Eze to Arsenal, because what it has been reported is Eze will be an option on top of a striker and a winger. So if Arsenal are signing him to play in the middle, do you think that's a a big move for them because obviously Eze, we know the fall off from Odegaard was heavy last year. They relied on him to be their creative outlet. He couldn't show up in that back end of the season when they needed him. And now having another option that will come in to compete with him, but also provide an option whether he's playing off the left or right. What do you think about that Eze deal to Arsenal? Does that really take them a step forward, unlike the Madueke one?
Yeah, definitely. I think the difference with Eze compared to what Arsenal have got, I think Arsenal have got good players. You know, when you look at Odegaard's a good player, but for me, he's never ever been the playmaker that people think he is. I think he's better suited deep lying as a number 8 that gets on the ball and starts things off. Trossard's a good footballer, but is he consistent enough? I think Eze just changes the game for them. I think he's that guy. He's that maverick. I think in an Arsenal team, I think Eze gets 15 to 20 goals across all competitions. He'll be playing on a bigger stage with better players, linking up with better players. He's got a better midfield behind him. I think it would be, unfortunately, Jords, I think it will be a great signing for Arsenal if they get him. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. If he goes there, he goes there, and we move on. But yeah, good signing for them if they get him.
Yeah, it's a really good signing. I'm not going to lie. I have tried to play it down at times, but I'll be honest. I think it's a really good signing, a proper needle mover for them. Because agreed. I think one of the biggest problems they had last season was their depth. When they had some of these injuries, they didn't have the level of players required to come in and provide that attacking outlet they need. Eze comes in as an option. And to have those types of players sitting on the bench, this is when they start to become more of a Liverpool, Man City type of team where you have a plethora of attacking options. And some of them are going to be happy to sit on the bench depending on what is needed of them. Plus, we know what Arteta loves, a versatile player, a player that can play multiple positions. So I'm sure he's going to find some good usage out of Eze. So it's a dangerous one there for them. But there was another player that you mentioned there regarding attacking players that we could potentially sign. And I did actually see this report this morning to say regarding Xavi Simons. Several Premier League clubs have shown interest in Xavi Simons, including Newcastle. I know Tottenham have been one of them. And again, the likes of Chelsea have also looked at him. However, the player does not want to join Newcastle. I have seen this. I have heard also from Plettenberg that he would be open to joining Tottenham, I suppose, because we've got the Champions League football plus. I think we're just Tottenham. They're Newcastle. What do you think about this? It's that London pool. It's definitely that London pool. But what do you think it is with Newcastle? Because I suppose a lot of people thought they were going to make a lot more bigger moves in the window. And I know they was waiting until the 1st of July like us too. But at the same time, I think their targets and signings have been a bit underwhelming so far this window. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, something that I always talk with Danny about is, do Newcastle have the big pool because of where they're based? Now, listen, I'm not knocking Newcastle, by the way. Some of my best nights out in my life have been in some great nights. I've been out there. Newcastle.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you have to look at it when players are coming from abroad or if they're moving from London. Do they want to move to Newcastle? I don't know. Lots of people, they love going to Manchester, right? They love going to London. They like going to these places. People want to go to Spain, to Barcelona, to Madrid. Do people want to go to these places that aren't the mainstream? I don't know. I think that Newcastle are in a really tough spot because now that the PSR has settled down a little bit for them, and now they've got Champions League, a lot is expected of them, Jords. And they've been bidding, right? Pedro turned them down for Chelsea, which is not, which is understandable. Alanga, they bid 45 million. I mean, you're not going to get Alanga out of Forest for 45 million. It's just not going to happen. Forest have no need to sell. And they're going for people like James Trafford, who it looks like they will get that over the line. But again, I'm guessing the Newcastle fans aren't sitting there going, yeah, this is why we got Champions League football to get another goalkeeper. Yeah. So I don't know. I think they might struggle on that. I think they're going to have to do what they've already done. I think they are going to, by the way, yeah, Bill, Tiger back in the day in Newcastle was banging. I think what they're going to have to, but it wasn't bad in Croydon as well in South London. That was good before everyone started getting stabbed up. I think they're going to have to do what they've done already. I think they're going to have to go abroad and find the Tonales. They're going to have to find the Isaks before their Isak, if that makes sense. They're going to have to find the Bruno Guimaraes. But it might be a case with a club like Newcastle, almost very similar to Spurs. We might have to wait for the big clubs to do their deals, right? And then we can go in the market and go, right, they've all spent their money. Hey, we're your best option. I don't know.
Do you know what it is? I've been saying this for a while, and it's a bit mad coming from Tottenham side of things. But I said Arsenal at the moment look like they hold the keys to the market. Now, with Man City coming back from the Club World Cup, I think that's going to change up the market quite a bit, because you're probably going to see Manchester City start to make some bigger moves, because they just got knocked out by Al Hilal. So that probably shows them the level of team and level of improvement they still need to make, even with Rodri and co coming back. So when I'm looking at it, I'm like, Arsenal, Man City, man, they're probably gonna pick up the bigger players, and the Spurs need to start figuring out from there who we want, where we're gonna sign. But that's what my problem is. There is a food chain, Savva, but at the same time, don't we have to, like, this has been the problem far too long with Tottenham, is we sit around and wait, and then our players and targets start getting picked up. So then we start looking at option B, he goes, option C goes, and then Spurs are all left with D's, E's, and F's at the end of August because we haven't made any moves. And that's where my problem is. It's just like Spurs got to be a bit smarter in this window. If we went in and choose our targets, like, let's just say Kudus, get this deal done. Just focus on getting this deal done, get that done over the next week, and then move on to our next big target and work your way down, just getting the deals done. Rather, then I feel like what we do too much is we do have this scattergun approach where we're negotiating with loads of players, but also there's other clubs negotiating with these players, and they tend to make moves on a lot of them a lot quicker than us. So especially when you have clubs like Chelsea lurking around, even Newcastle at this stage are going to be offering more money than Tottenham, whether that's wages and upfront fees. We need to start talking with these clubs and trying to make these deals happen a bit sooner. So
Catch-22, isn't it? It's catch-22. It always has been. We know that there's a food chain. We know that the big clubs are going to have the pull. Listen, if I was a professional footballer, if you were a professional footballer, Jords, forget that we're Tottenham fans. Forget it, right? If we're professional footballers, 23, 24, whatever, and your agent rings you up and says, I've had 2 calls in the last hour. One is from Liverpool, one is from Spurs. As a player right now, you're going, cool, I'm off to Liverpool, right? And that's how life works. For me, this is where I think it's about being smart. It's about being smart. Looking at the targets that are realistic. Looking at the targets that upskill us, but at the same time are realistic. Going out there, getting them done early. Now, at the same time, what we can't do is complain when, if we do go for targets that Chelsea go for, that City go for, Liverpool go for, that does show that we've then got the same ambition as those guys. But we just have to be very, very understanding of who we are. But where Spurs need to change is we need to get back to that level where we are top 4 every year. Then we need to strike. When you can show the players that, hey, we're not top 4 once, we're top 4 every year, like we were under Poch. You know, that's where you've got to say, that's the moment you kick on. That's when we could have turned around to people and said, hey, we've got peak Harry Kane, peak Son, peak Dembele, Ali, Ericsson, Wanyama, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, come and join us. Look what we're building. I think it's very difficult to do that from where we are now, because I don't think we've got that glam. If I'm a top player, I'm looking at the Spurs squad going, am I going to play with top players? No. You know what I mean? So it's the chicken and the egg. So I think that we've got to slowly, surely get there. And that's what you've got to hope that Thomas Frank can bring to us, can upskill players, coach them better, and do what Poch did.
No, that's essentially it. And touched on it a bit briefly yesterday. I remember we were speaking with Lubo, talking about how one of the biggest things Ange failed in was just not upskilling. And I think Frank comes in and upskills some of the players we currently have. And I think our squad take a natural step up and a step forward just being under Frank, because I think a lot of these players are going to improve themselves. They're going to get better over the next couple of months. But we can also bring in players at those similar levels that will also be able to have those little improvements under the new manager. So yeah, no, I think Simmons could present as a good option for us. He plays in the 10, but can also operate off the left, off the right. Like I said, played multiple positions. Probably not had that move as of yet in his career. He's moved around quite a lot. I know he's been at Leipzig, he's been at PSV, he's been at PSG, and he's
Yep.
sort of been moved around quite a bit. Never really had a stable place, but I think his next club will be the one where he can really grow. And I know the one thing that's held us off so far is his wages. I've looked into it a bit more, and it seems like he gets like 100K up front and then a 75K bonus on a weekly basis. So his move will be a deal similar to that of like an Ndombele, where he's going to command a 200 to 250K a week wage. So do you think that Spurs are in a position right now to take a risk on a player like that? Because I'm of the belief that sometimes you just need to pay the players what they want. If you want to sign some of these top young talents at like 24, 25, where they're going into their prime, you're going to have to give them this big wage packet. But ultimately, it's going to work out because they're good players. But what do you think of it?
You have to ask yourself the question, I suppose, as a club: is the juice worth the squeeze? If the juice is worth the squeeze, if Xavi Simons, for example, using him in this theory, if Xavi Simons is the guy that takes you to the next level, if he's the guy that's going to come in and be your number one, if he's going to be the guy that sells you shirts, if he's going to be the one that stands out in the Champions League, then you pay it, right? Then you make that statement of intent. Then you turn around in the next window and go, look, hey, we signed Xavi Simons. We're going to do that with you now. You come and join. We've got Xavi Simons. We've got Kudus. You know what I mean? We've got these players. We've got Christian Romero, who's a World Cup winner at the back. That's how I think you've got to do it. You've got to take the risk at some point. But we seem so put off because of what happened with Ndombele. You know, like when you look at the Chelseas, the Cities, the Liverpool, Arsenals, they make mistakes, they move them on, they go again. Yeah. Our fan base has not stopped talking about deals that went wrong 10 years ago. Right? Do you know what I mean? You think we bought Ndombele in 2019, right? 2019, we bought Ndombele. And we're going, can we buy another French player? What? Because a French player didn't work out in 2019. Oh, can we pay someone else 200 grand a week? Well, yeah. if you want to get better, you've got to.
And quite frankly, the way I see it is if you're spending 60, 70 million pounds on a player, it's because you think that they're going to be able to give you that level of performance. So when I'm looking at it, it's like it just makes sense. But yeah, like I said, there too many people are still stuck on the Ndombele deal. That to be fair, I actually still don't think Ndombele was a bad player. He didn't work out on the pitch, but he had all the ability,
wasn't it? It was
more
just
an attitude problem,
application and attitude. I mean, as a footballer, God, he was ridiculously talented, but again, that goes down to homework. That's why when we're talking about signing, sometimes when we say just get this player, just get that player, I want my scouting team, I want the recruitment analysts, do your homework. What's their attitude like? What's their lifestyle like? What's their family like? All of these things need to be taken into account. And I know we don't care about those things, Jords. I know we're football fans and we think it's Football Manager, but this is professional football.
Yeah, no, it's just like if you're gonna bring someone into a job, like if you had a friend or if you had someone that you know and you were gonna hire them into your company and someone knew them personally, you'd be asking about what they're like in their personal life, what they do, what they get up to, because you want to know what people are like, because that's what they're gonna bring themselves to the job. And ultimately, like we know, one thing Ange did actually do well, and he spoke about it in many of his interviews when he signed players, was he would test that player's character, and he'd like to know a bit more about their character before we signed them. So players like Mickey van der Ven and some of the other players we signed had the right attitude coming into Tottenham. And I suppose winning the trophy shown him to be right on that side of things. We did have a question in here from Sharkish, who says, why don't Spurs go for Rashford? You like your English players. We did see that Aston Villa had rejected the opportunity to sign Rashford, but he's still available for £40 million. Would you take a bump on a player like Rashford? I mean, for £40 million, it's a good risk. I think for that price range, you've got a risk.
For the wages,
really. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, listen. There's two sides to Marcus Rashford. If you are promising me, right, that Spurs are getting the Marcus Rashford that we've seen score plenty of goals and terrorise defences, it's a no-brainer. I just think the problem is there's so much baggage with this guy now. There's so much now, and whether that's all justified or not, there's so much noise and baggage that comes with him. Look, I thought, like, we all watched Aston Villa versus PSG, the home leg, right? That Villa won, right? I thought Rashford absolutely destroyed PSG. if it's that Rashford, I'm all over it. Problem is with the wages, with his history, can we confirm we're getting that guy? I don't think so. And I just think clubs are going to steer away from that because of that risk. Villa can't afford it. Let's be honest, Villa can't afford those wages. Daniel Levy's never, ever paying anywhere near 350k. So I don't think it's viable, but I do think there's a good signing there for somebody if they can. Listen, I think Frank would get the best out of him, but I just think there's too much baggage. There's too much money involved in it. I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, I can't see it happening, but I'll be honest. I've said it, man. This is a player I'd actually be willing to take a punt on. I know he's obviously not worked out over the last couple of years. And like I said, he's very up and down with his performances, but I've just got a feeling he needs a manager just to put his arm around him, someone to show him a bit of love, show him a bit of care, and just say, look, you're my player. I want you to take this team forward. And I think if he goes to a new club where they make him again, look, Rashford, you're going to be the go-to guy. Yeah, we want you to show us that. Just be that person where you need, and he's not going to have all of this other, media outlets trying to bash him. It probably might work out better if he does go abroad. But if he was going to get an opportunity over here for £40 million, it would be a deal, a risk that I'm willing to take. And like I said, the wages would be where the
fee isn't an issue. I think the fee for 40 million, when you look at what players are going for, I think that's a steal. I just think there's so much noise around him that I don't know if he'd be on a hiding to nothing before he joins. I think what it would do, Jords, I think we both know this, whatever we think of him, it would absolutely divide the fan base if that sort of signing was to be made. But if you said to me, we're going to buy him and he's going to be on our left-hand side or through the middle, I'm taking him over Dominic Solanke or Matisse Tell all day long. So I wouldn't be against it, but I wouldn't champion it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it would be one of those deals that if it happened later in the window, I'd be like, yeah, man, this is a good signing. You'd add it up at the end of the window. Don't make it your marquee signing. Don't be that one.
So if someone said, okay, Tottenham are going to take Rashford on loan for 1 year, right? Spurs are going to take Marcus Rashford on loan for 1 year. Let the clubs deal with who's paying what wages. I don't care. I'm not an accountant, right? I think for a year's loan, when I look at Tell, Odegaard, Moore, Yang, Brian Hill, Solomon, Johnson, Marcus Rashford is miles better than every single one of them. So I think there you go. I'll say this. I'll take him if it's a year loan. Let's give him a year loan. Yes, I would, but I can't see it happening.
Yeah, I can't see it happening. Not Man United loaning a player to us after smacking them up 4 times. And I don't know if people do know, we're actually suing Ineos at the moment as well. So I'm not really too sure if Ratcliffe is going to want to do more business with Daniel Levy at Tottenham, knowing that they owe us a few million for their sponsorship. So they'll probably try and fleece us for that Rashford deal some way or another.
Well, we know we're taking you to court, but we'd like to buy one of your players. Can we do some business, please?
One of your marquee players of that, your star ones. Give us your last star. Let's see him in a Spurs shirt.
By the way, Neb in your chat, if you think Tell is a better player than Rashford right now, you're having a mare, my friend. You're having an absolute mare. Sorry.
I think Tell better than Rashford is crazy. Tell's comparing to Garnachos and them types of players, and even then he's not better than Garnacho. But just that's the level of players compare him to, not the Rashfords and players that are the Savva check. Yeah, that was definitely
the VAR check going on. Yeah.
But yes, another player who seems to be like the interest is called, and we touched him a bit briefly earlier, Antoine Semenyo. We was told a few weeks ago upon Frank coming into Tottenham that he was Frank's #1 target alongside Mbeumo. And then obviously Spurs were inquiring for that deal. Looks like Bournemouth want that 65 to 70 million pounds we paid for Solanke last year. They consider him to be their best and most valuable player at this moment in time, especially being in their forward front line. Just got rid of Hodgson for 50 million. Kirkes for 40 million. Zabani, that deal looks like it's almost going to be wrapped up for around 60 to 70 million as well. So they're not strapped for cash right now. They've got plenty of money on the books. What do we think about Semenyo at 65 to 70 million? Do you think that we're right to call the interest in the deal for Semenyo at that price? Or, I mean, we're going to end up paying that for a player of his level anyway. Do you think we just have to go ahead?
No, we were just having this conversation on my channel. I think the problem you've got now is it is a seller's market. If these clubs do not need money, but look how much money Bournemouth have made already from selling Kirkes and Hewson. I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, I'm guessing they've probably made about 70, 80 million pound profit on top of what they paid for the players. They're in talks to sell Zabanyi to PSG. They're going to make a massive profit there. This is a club that don't need money. So Bournemouth are well within their rights to turn around and go, cool, you want Semenyo, we want 65 million. Now, whether or not as fans we think he's worth that doesn't come into it, Jords. Doesn't come into it. Yeah. It's if Spurs want him enough and Bournemouth have a figure they'll sell at, that's the number. Listen, I really like Semenyo. I really like Semenyo. Again, powerful, direct runner, scores goals, strong. He won more duels in the Premier League last year than any other wide forward. So we know he's got that strength and that bullish nature. Are Tottenham going to go to 60, 65 for him? Probably not. But, George, can we see the pattern? Pedro, right? Yeah, Pedro, Eze, Kudus, Semenyo. We're seeing the numbers for all of these players, 60, 65, 60, 65. Clubs aren't stupid. They're not going to sell their players cheap. But do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I'd quite like it to. I like Semenyo. I think he's a good player. Cunha's another one, 65 million. And Buemo, 65 million right there. There's a going rate for these players. So we either put up or shut up. So fans can say this, but all Tobago, to you, he's 40 to 50 million. To the buying and selling club, the selling club will go, well, he ain't 50 million. And the buying club will go, well, he's not 65 and they don't get him. So it's not what we think as fans. It's what they can get. Business. It's business, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and that's the thing right now. Like you said there, it's definitely a seller's market. And I feel like football has become that over the years with all these smaller teams having the better scouting setups and they go for a lot more of these better players. We're starting to see they've got the stronghold in this market. And then when you've got a team like Bournemouth who has 3 or 4 players that are moving to the top clubs in world football, that's when you can see like this club's done some really good business. They're going to keep doing that. They're going to keep churning out players of this level. Brighton, same thing. They're making 100+ million in profits on a yearly basis, just getting rid of these types of players. So,
George, use them as an example. George, use Brighton as an example. So I see people say, "Oh, I'd love Belieber," and I'd love Belieber. Brighton make profit every year. If Spurs rocked up to Brighton and went, we would like Belieber, how much do you think Brighton are going to say, sure, you can have him, but it's going to be 75, 80. These clubs aren't in financial trouble, Jords. They don't have to sell. But the clubs who want to buy need to buy. That's the difference. Yeah. So you either compromise on your target or you pay what the selling club want. And I was just talking with Sean about this. And with Wolfie as well, me, Sean and Wolfie, and Charlie, really random panel. You've got to remember that this PSR stuff, financial fair play, it's been around so long now that all of the clubs have worked out how to get around it, Jords. They've all worked out how to get around FFP and PSR. So it's now all about what do the selling club want and will the buying club pay that? If you manage to find a club that are in PSR trouble, and I mean really big PSR trouble, then you can pull their pants down. Sure, because you can say to them, 40 million. And they'll go, oh, shit, we need that 40 million, but we think he's worth 60. But that's how it works. They don't get bullied anymore. The big clubs can't bully the little clubs.
They can't. They literally can't bully them. And I don't see Semenyo going for a fee under 55, 60 million guaranteed. Like you said, Pedro deal, that's gone for 55. They're even looking at players like Bino Gittins, who's unproven at 19. Chelsea are paid 42.5 plus 10 or 12 in add-ons. They're looking at what the market's going on right now, and they're like, Semenyo's scored more goals than this player. He's better than this player. That's how it works. And they're like, no. If this player's worth this, our player's worth this. And that's what it seems like right now. A lot of the smaller clubs are banding up, and they're just decided, look, we aren't selling our players for no less than, it seems like the price tag is 50 plus for any player that's 23, 24, and he's proven. Even if he's young and he's got a high potential, 50 plus million is the minimum fee that most clubs accept. So even seeing players like Kirkes go for the lower fee, it's usually just because of the deals, the fact that his contract's going to be running out, and all these other things is probably why they go for shorter prices. But it's a difficult market to move in right now, and Spurs aren't the team that are going to benefit from all of these clubs that are being very tricky and not trying to maneuver with their pricing. But away from Semenyo, because again, that deal, we haven't really seen anything too concrete on it over the past, I'd say, week or so. So it seems like the interest is really cooled. The only other sign of ingoings or incomings, I should say, has come from Ornstein confirming we still need a fullback, and Spurs are looking at a fullback. And there has been numerous reports from other more English outlets, from The Guardian and some other English journalists, to suggest that we've been looking at Dennis Serkin and Carl Walker-Peters. Now, obviously, for those that don't know, Spurs do have a homegrown issue quota going into Champions League, having enough club-trained players and homegrown players so we can fulfill our 25-man squad. It's been a constant issue for Spurs in the last couple of years. And with players like Alfie Whiteman, who was used to fill that role, leaving Tottenham with their contract ending, it looks like we're now going to have to find new players to fit in with that role. Dennis Serkin and Carl Walker-Peters being two players on the left-sided left back, where we need some coverage. What do you think about, I suppose, Spurs' homegrown quota issue? And is that the way to solve it, bringing in a player that used to play for Tottenham and can be a backup?
Yeah, there's a number of ways of looking at this. I mean, I can't remember who said it the other day, but someone was saying, if you're at the point where you've got to, because it's all about squad numbers, isn't it? The homegrown issue is all about squad numbers. So if you want 25 players in your Champions League squad, you must have 4 of them. There's got to be 8 homegrown and 4 must be club trained. Yeah. But somebody made a great point the other day and said, well, what's the difference if you go in with 22 or 23 players? Because if you get to the stage where you need to play, just for example, Dennis Churkin at left back in a Champions League game, does it really matter? Like, at that stage, I might as well play Ben Davies there, or I might as well push Van der Ven out there. Like, and it was a very interesting way of looking at it. But look, we do have a problem with homegrown and club trained. And for me, I've said this for a year. Honestly, I'm not being a Sunday morning quarterback, right? I promise you, I said this last year. Carl Walker-Peters, when he had 1 year left on his contract, I said, that has got Tottenham next summer on a free written all over it. He can play right back, left back. He's club trained. He won't mind not being a first team player. He's from Spurs. Like, he's a free transfer. For me, I just feel that will be the deal. But I feel it's all about optics, Jords. I.e., if he was to come through the door now, this week, the fans would be like, oh, same old Spurs. This is shit. Is this our signings? If we went and signed Harvey Elliott, Kudus, and the number 6, then signed Carl Walker-Peters, I think more people would go, oh, it makes sense. We need it for club-trained, homegrown squad. So I feel like it will be that. I might be wrong. I just think it's going to be Carl Walker-Peters. And it's not the worst signing we've ever made, but it's, as long as people know why it's being made, it's not a needle mover. It's not this is ambition. It will be for homegrown club trained quota, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I have been putting out to people as well, just to make it very clear, because I don't think Spurs are signing KWP or looking at Dennis Serkin to improve our squad. And we're looking at these players like, yeah, this is going to be the player that's coming in as the backup to Udogie and our go-to option from that left-hand side or to compete with Udogie. I don't look at this still being anything like that. Simply look at this being one where we're looking to fix a homegrown issue. We've also looking to bring in a player where we don't have to spend funds. A player that's probably going to be happy to sit on the bench. With KWP, he's coming to the end of his career. He's 28 now. He left Spurs at, I think, 23, 24. He's had 5 solid years at Southampton. Probably hasn't pushed on and done amazing things, but he's been a very solid fullback at a Premier League level for a few years now. So if we're talking about coming in and being an option for at left back in the Premier League, he's good enough. He had played Champions League, albeit with us. He did have a few campaigns where he did play some games. But when you're looking at it, it's probably even still Jed Spence may be the preferred option at left back from seeing his performances last year. Thomas Frank may opt to use him first. So either of these players coming in are likely going to be the third left back option, maybe even fourth if you consider Ben Davies to be playing there. So I'm not really too concerned when looking at it. But like you said, Daf, I do think that it will be funny if it does get announced over next week and Spurs fans do what they do and just start to break down, man. Like,
look, I think the key thing here is what you got. You got my trainer. Sorry, my puppy's got my trainer. I can see him. He's going to chew through it. Look, I think that if it frees up money, I think Neil Gunner in your chat's made a great point. He said if you're spending in other areas and it's a cheap deal to help spend in other areas, no problem. And I agree. All I've said, Neil, is just about the optics for me. It's just about the optics. Yeah. If we did it now, people are going to go Danso, Tell, Takai, Walker-Peters. They're going to panic. If you do it a little bit further down, I wouldn't be surprised if they've probably got a deal agreed. I wouldn't be surprised if they say, look, go and have your holidays, whatever, come back. We'll get this deal wrapped up. Come home. If you're him, it's a no-brainer. You're from London. You're from Tottenham. You're playing in Champions League. And you could be one injury away from playing every week. You could be, right? Like, we don't know what will happen. If an Udogie or a Porro gets injured and the Spencer's left, I don't know. You could be one injury away from playing and suddenly you're the forgotten man that's now being raved about. So I think that will get done. I could be wrong. I think
I generally do. I think the Walker-Peters deal gets done because it's just a no-brainer. Like I said, he's going to be coming home, come back to Tottenham, probably get a good 4 or 5 year deal. And Spurs will probably pay him better than what he's going to get paid at most other clubs, unless he goes abroad to like a Turkey, Galatasaray, or Fenerbahce, a team like that. Who, to be fair, they seem like they're making big moves. Those clubs are paying some big money right now. And actually, speaking about Galatasaray, now that we mentioned them, I have seen reports on the outgoing side of things that Richarlison could be on his way over there, could be on his way to Turkey. That, to be fair, they've been attracting some bigger players, so I wouldn't actually be surprised to see this deal happen. But are you happy to see the backside of Richarlison finally?
Yeah, look, I've got nothing against him. Like, he's a character. I just think that at the time I said it, I thought it was a really lazy signing. For me, Richarlison should be a third, fourth choice striker. I think he works hard. You know what you're going to get. But this is not the guy where you say, right, play 38 games a season for me, grab me 25 goals. It's just not. He's never been that guy. I just hope that when players like Richarlison leave, Jords, I'm hoping that they're not all just loans. I hope that we can actually start getting some players out and some money in. So, look, if they're loans with obligations, that's different, but not loans where we have to worry about, oh, well, we're going to have him back next summer and we'll have to go again, you know? Talking about that, if I'm not wrong, because it is the first today, I think Spurs have actually got a lot of business going on today. So which would be Højbjerg's deal should now be activated, right? If I'm not wrong, that deal should be activated. So he's gone to Marseille. And then the Danso and Tell deal should be activated with them coming to us. So there's a lot at Spurs going on. Like, I know we're saying nothing's happening, but there's the accounts department.
This guy said there's obviously nothing to talk about, but there's quite a lot to talk about.
There's loads to talk about.
I don't know if you know what Spurs...
The transfer window, my man. What's wrong with you? Why are you here watching? Why are you
That's
here
what they
watching?
always say, oh, you guys are making videos on nothing, but they'll watch the video and they'll find out something that they didn't know. And you're like, hey, there's been some updates, and you're going to either watch us or you're going to watch someone else to find out the updates. So look, you can be bad vibes or you can just enjoy it and drop a like on the stream. Show some love, show some support. We're all about positivity over here. But just back to that Richarlison stuff there. Like I said, I'm not a person that's hated on Richarlison. I'm not. I like his passion for the badge is really like no other. And he reminds me of like when Lamela was here. It's usually just the South American players. They have that, like, they care about Tottenham more than most people care about Tottenham. Even the legends. You look at Lucas Moura, Sandro Ranieri. He still comes to Tottenham games, still screaming. Like, they just care more about our club than most. So they get the passion for the badge, but the quality just isn't there on the pitch. And every time I'm watching him play, it's like my eyes are bleeding sometimes. He's just a heavy touch. It's like he's in front of goal. I feel like he's never took a clean strike of the ball. He's always like sliding when he shoots, falling over, and just tripping up on himself and these types of things.
I don't think it always has to be that if a player needs to leave that we hate them or whatever. I just think the word you use there, the Q word, is not used enough when talking about players. Quality. Do I hate Richarlison? No. Do I want to see him up front for my club? No. Do I think he's a very hard-working, honest pro? Yes, I do. For me, I just think, is Galatasaray the one for... I mean, I don't care where he goes, right? By the way, I don't care. But for me, I just think Everton, going back to Everton, just looks like a perfect place for him to go. David Moyes set up where it's going to be a lot of hustle, a lot of bustle. Galatasaray, what have they got? Leroy Sané. Looks like they're still trying to get Osimhen. I don't know whether would he go there. Would he be first choice? See, I think if he goes to Everton, obviously they've got to want him. I think he would be first choice. But maybe why not go to a Leeds? Do you know what I mean? Go to a Leeds. Go and be the main man at Leeds United and keep them up in the Premier League. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I said. Everton would be a good move for him. Go back to David Moyes, like go back to there where they're going to play some Brexit football. It just works out for them. Obviously, Galatasaray, they've got Icardi, they've still got Osimhen, and they're trying to wrap up that deal. He's just going to be one of many strikers there where he'll probably be loved again. He might have some fun over in Turkey, but if he's looking to really build his career and maintain the level of quality and still, you know, it's a World Cup season. He wants to be in the World Cup next year. He needs to be at a team where he's going to get ample opportunity. I don't think going to Turkey or Galatasaray would be a good move for him on that side of things. But the last thing on outgoings is this report that I did see. I think this may have been yesterday, that has been apparently... Now, I've seen, again, contradicting reports about this. But if you are to believe Savva Foot, Christian Romero is close to agreeing personal terms with Atletico Madrid. Talks between Tottenham and Atletico Madrid seem to be progressing well. I think some of the other reports also said that they're not close to agreeing a fee because Tottenham wants £70 million and not really looking to budge from that unless they're looking to offer in and around 60 to 70 million euros. That's what they'd accept. So what do you think about Romero potentially going, and I suppose Atletico Madrid is still happening?
Christian Romero. Look, I always think that with Romero, it boils down to two things. One, does he want to leave? Which all the noises for the last couple of years would suggest yes, but now with Frank there, and maybe he realizes now that under Frank, he won't be played in a wide open gung-ho system, and he might actually be able to be a defender that isn't in a team that concede 4 goals a game. The second thing is, can Atletico afford him? That's the question, right? I've always said this about Romero. I like Romero. I've just never thought he's as good as others think. My question is this: why is no one to date, so far? By the way, there's a long window to go. Why is no one so far bigger than, like, no one's come in for him? Like, if he's this great player, why am Bayern Munich putting the money up for Romero? Why are PSG going for Zabani from Bournemouth? Why are they not coming for him? So I think he'll be here next year because I don't think anyone will have the money to pay what Daniel Levy wants for him. I think it's going to boil down to that. The problem you've got for me is it boils down to the man. Does he want to be here? If you've got a fully fit, fully focused Romero, you've got a very good defender. Problem is, Jords, for 50% of the time, you don't have a fully fit, fully focused Romero.
Yeah.
He's either not fit, or he's thinking about Argentina, or he's slating our medical staff, or he's saying bad things. I just, if he's here, get him to sign a new contract and get this guy committed and get him fit for 38 games a season. And that's where I've always had the issue with Romero. There's too much going on around him. And last thing I'll say, sorry, I've ranted a bit there.
That's fine.
The last thing I'll say about it is he's the sort of person that if we were looking at buying, our fans would be saying, oh, he's a bad egg. Oh, I don't know, his attitude. Oh, he speaks out in the press. So for me, not really too sure that he's going to go purely because of the price. But I do believe that if Atletico stumped up 65, 70 million with 2 years left to go and the player doesn't want to be here, then I do think that he'd go. Playing for Simeone is going to be a big draw for him. Obviously an Argentinian legend, one of the best managers in the world. He's got who's Argentina? Who's Argentinian at Atletico? You've got Julian Alvarez. You've got Rodrigo de Paul. You've got Simeone's son. I'm missing a few, I think. So for me, I think if they cough up the money, he's gone. I think he will force his way out. If not, he stays. And which Romero have we got? That's the question mark for me.
Yeah, I think with Romero, it's like you said there, you summed it up perfectly. It's what Romero are we going to get? Because the season before last, I thought he was amazing. I thought he was really improving. I feel like he took that step forward where he could go to be a leader for Tottenham. And then last season, he had all the injury problems. He came back, didn't really look like himself. Was good in the Europa League campaign, you could say. But even then, again, I feel like he was some way off the Romero that we know he could be. For this Atletico move, I think Neil Gunner put it perfectly there. It's the most Argentinian squad out there. Like I feel like he's going to be very comfortable over there. When you talk about the way they play, it's probably more suited to his style of football. And also just, I know when he came over from Serie A, he was used to playing in back threes. So he played in a lot of back threes and he's come to Tottenham in a back two. And that's where I feel like he's probably suffered at times. And where he switches off, that's where you start to see a lot more goals conceded because he used to having those other players in and around him filling in.
And in a very
gaps.
wide open back two as well, George. I think, like, you know, as a defender like that, would you want to be? He comes from Argentina, right? When he goes to play for Argentina, who play a very compact game, defensively solid, really well drilled. And for the last few years, he's been playing in a wide open Spurs defense that concede for fun. Maybe he's had enough of that. I don't know the guy. Maybe he's the nicest guy in the world, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think he has. And to be fair, I think it's probably the best way to leave Tottenham if he is going to leave Tottenham. Look, we lifted a trophy. He captained us to that. And look, we can just part ways in an amicable way where he goes on to do better in his career. We get in a decent fee for him. I do think that the fee that we are asking for is the right fee, to be honest, because I do feel like if we get anything under 55 to 60 million, then we're being fleeced because we brought him, I believe, for 40 to 45 million pounds. Yeah, that was 4 years ago or so when the market wasn't at where it's at now, and he's definitely improved in those years. Maybe not drastically, but he's definitely improved in those years. So you're getting a more polished defender at 60 to 60 million pounds, but it remains to be seen whether Atleti are going to be able to rise those funds for that.
What I will say as well, though, is if we want him to stay and he stays, we can't be surprised if he misses loads of games next season. So what we can't do, I feel like for the last 2 years, we've used this excuse. Oh, but, you know, Romero's not been fit. Well, yeah, we know that. We know that now. We should have learnt that years ago, that Romero, throughout his career, misses a lot of games of football. So if he does stay next year, again, what we're going to be doing is putting our hope in Van der Ven and Romero, two very injury-prone footballers. Now, that may change with a new manager and a different way of training, a different way of playing. But both of them, George, if you look at their careers back in Italy and in Germany, both of them are very injury-prone. So I think it's my worry about building a back four around two injury-prone centre-backs, not just one. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, definitely worried about it. But let's see. Spurs still definitely need to make a move in the window for a centre-back if he does look like he's on his way out. I know over the next week, we'll see the confirmation of Kota Takai in a Spurs shirt. I've heard that it's the 5th of July is his travelling day. The 5th or the 8th, I think it was, either of those.
5th, I think.
Was his travelling day to Tottenham. So we'll get to see him confirmed. But look, that's pretty much been all the Tottenham transfer news that we could cover, all the players on the incoming side of things, all the players on the outgoing side of things. So I hope we touch all the transfers you guys wanted to speak about in the comment section. Big up for everyone that's in the building right now. We did get to 100 likes. We're on 103 exactly. So we hit the goal. That's massive. Appreciate the support, people. Before we do head out, we did have a question for you though, Savva, from Sharkeisha, saying, what is a marquee signing for you for Spurs' window? What player would make you happy before the window shuts?
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's so much about marquee. I don't think Spurs are in the market of signing marquee signings. I think it's about sensible signings. So for me, I think Kudus, a Semenyo, Xavi Simons, the lad from Lyon. I think these are the sort of players I want to see come through the door. And I think you can get 2 of them at least. So for me, I don't know if that answers your question, but I put them into my marquee bracket, but I don't really. Marquee for me is Florian Wirtz. Florian Wirtz signing for Arsenal, Liverpool. That's a marquee signing, right? I don't think Spurs are in the market of doing that, but those types of players, and I want to see a number 6. I want to see a central midfielder that comes in and steadies the ship and controls the Spurs midfield. So that's what I want to see. Yeah, definitely need to see a number 6. And I don't need a marquee signing as well. I've been looking at the data. I've been in my chats. They've been sending me players. Been looking at. I've been seeing this some good players for cheap prices. You can get Ogume. I think that was one we were looking at the other day. Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
25, 35, 30
He's the lad at Seville, isn't he?
Yeah. He looks really good. So there's players that we can get that don't have to be marquee signings, and like Savva's there, don't necessarily, it's not the Spurs way to go and spend loads of money on loads of big signings and get these massive players, but be smart acquisitions where they're the right players to come and fit in the Frank system. And obviously that was another one, Igor Paschal as well from PSV, really, Feyenoord, sorry, I believe it's really
I like
player.
Fofana as well. Is it?
Fofana? I think he's just been confirmed over to go Leverkusen. I think
ignore me then. These clubs out in Spain and Germany, they seem to get these 25, 30 million pound gems and then sell them on. I think that's what I think Spurs need to get better at, by the way. I think we need to get better at that.
Just wrapping those deals up and getting those players in. I think, Spurs definitely do. But hopefully over the next week, when we do this show next week on Savva's channel, hopefully there's more news. Hopefully a signing has been announced in that forward line. Maybe Kudus. So make sure you guys are subscribing to Savva. The link to his channel is in the title of the video, but also in the description. So if you haven't seen it within the chat, throughout the chat, you can go into the description as well as hit the title to see some more of Savva. Let me just quickly check who's live so I can send you guys over to someone. Let's see. We got Jay. Hotspur Jay is live. Let's go raid Jay, people. Let's go drop Jords and Savva raid in his chat. Let him know where you guys come over from. And yeah, man. Big up for everyone that's been in the chat so far. It's been a very good show. And next week, 1 p.m., we will be back. Thank you, Savva, for being here.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
It's been good.